Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day life. Let's start with the video.
I, 17M, come from a relatively poor household. My mother was a cashier at Walmart, and she did what she could to provide for my little brother and me. On the other hand, my father is what I'd consider being the cliché of the good-for-nothing dad. He didn't have a job and was a drunkard. It's not like I spent a lot of time with him during my childhood because he would either get wasted in bars or go cheat on my mother. The cherry on top was how abusive he was with Mom. When he would come back home with more alcohol in his system than usual, he'd start looking for trouble with each and every person who existed within the same perimeter as him. But still, my mother was his favorite victim. She was extremely docile and submissive, and she would endure everything he put her through. I guess it's easier to accept abuse when you come from a problematic household yourself. My brother and I would often witness my father's violence. He'd beat my mother right in front of our eyes, insult her with all kinds of words, and each time, he had no real reason to be doing this, aside from wanting to hold her responsible for him being a total failure. When I became 15, I figured out I'd get a part-time job to help my mother with the expenses of life, seeing how my dad had no intentions of doing so himself. I knew that it wouldn't amount to much no matter how hard I worked, but I still tried to make it work. Soon enough, I juggled between 3 small jobs, one being a delivery boy, the 2 others were as a bakery assistant, and at night a waiter in a small pub. Seeing how I had no time left for other activities, I had to stop going to high school and never told my mom about it because I didn't want her to worry. Every time she asked me how school was going, I'd repeat the stories my friends would tell me, and she believed every word I said. How innocent she was. After years of abuse and neglecting her health by overworking herself for our sake, my mother fell ill. She became bedridden and couldn't go to work anymore, so I became the only provider for the family. Seeing how my mother could not handle his little outbursts anymore, my father began to direct his violence towards me. I became his punching bag. He would beat me senseless every time I refused to lend him money to buy more alcohol. Saying I hate my father would be an understatement at this point. Things got worse, and my mother's health slowly but surely declined, and getting her to be hospitalized was not an option either, because I could barely make enough cash to feed us. And so, like that, I saw my mother die while being and feeling totally helpless. My father didn't grieve. He didn't seem affected by the passing of my mother. He even went back to his drunkard lifestyle right after we put her down to earth. My little brother, on the other hand, was devastated. He was only 12 the year my mom died, and so he still needed a maternal figure in his life. It was heartbreaking to see. A little while after that, I would say 5 months maybe, my dad started dating someone. Let's call her Karen. Karen was a nurse in a nearby hospital, and seeing as her job forced her to be around respectable people, I found it astonishing that she fell for my dad. But hey, who am I to judge? My father started bringing her home and even let her spend the night on more than one occasion. As much as I hated him for forgetting about Mom so quickly despite all her sacrifices, I still felt relieved because he had a new distraction, and therefore, he stopped being violent with me. I also realized my father stopped asking me for money, so I assumed Karen was now his new piggy bank. But turns out, she managed to find him a job as a security guard for the parking lot of the hospital where she worked, and just like that, my dad was no longer unemployed. How stupid I was to feel relieved because I had less responsibilities now, and the only person I had to take care of was myself and my little brother. I decided to quit one of my part-time jobs and dedicate that free time to learning some hard skills. And so I started some free online courses on app coding because I wanted to work as a freelancer. Soon after, I found little gigs that paid well, and it really changed my life. I was able to save money and actually buy things I wanted for myself and for my brother. After feeling more secure financially, I figured out I'd spoil myself, and so I bought a PS5. My little brother was totally freaking out when he saw it. We started spending hours playing against each other, and I can say that for the first time in a while, I saw genuine happiness displayed on his face. As I had more money and more free time, I decided to get back to school and pursue my education. I felt as if life was finally looking up for me. But then, reality hit me like a truck. It was one of those average, boring days. I was going home after a day of swinging between classes. I was tired, and I had work I had to finish for one of my clients. I got to my house and knocked on the door. Usually, my little brother would come sprinting and welcome me inside with a hug. But this time, the person I found behind the door was not my brother. Instead, it was another boy who seemed to be around my age, maybe a year younger. I'm a rather shy person, so I didn't have the nerve to ask him who he was. Perhaps I knew him from somewhere and just forgot his face, or maybe he's a son of one of my late mom's friends. I smiled awkwardly at him, and then I got to my room. There, I found an additional bed and my little brother's belongings packed in boxes. I was clearly confused, and so I went to look for him, but he was nowhere to be seen. I then went down to the kitchen, where I overheard my dad talk to Karen to ask him if he had seen my brother. He told me that he was a little upset, and so he went out for a walk. Now the question that got repeated in my mind was, why would a 13-year-old go on a walk by himself? I wanted to go out looking for him, but my father stopped me in my tracks and said that he had something important to announce to me. So I turned around to face him and his girlfriend and just waited for whatever he had to say. He grabbed Karen by the shoulder and brought her closer to him, and with a smile announced that she and her kid were moving in to live with us. To be honest, I kinda expected this to happen. It also explained why my brother's stuff was in my room. They probably gave his room to our new stepbrother, and so I just nodded and went back on my tracks. The next day, aka yesterday, we were all having dinner together, for the first time in what felt like ages, because back when my mom was alive, he'd never come home early to share dinner with us. I was minding my own business because really I had nothing to say to them. But my dad, on the other hand, had a few things on his mind. He stopped eating and called out my name, and so I looked at him, clearly annoyed. This annoyance turned to anger when I heard what he had to say. Believe it or not, he told me that I should give the PS5 I worked my ass off to get to my stepbrother as a welcoming gift. For a split second, I thought he was joking, but his serious expression told me otherwise. I was furious, so I got up from the table and flipped him off. Now I'm currently spending the night at a friend's house until I figure out how to deal with my father and his crazy expectations. Update: I didn't expect this post to blow up, and since a lot of you have been asking me for an update, here it is. I had a talk with Dad about him wanting me to give up something I earned myself, but it was useless since he insisted it was the right thing to do, saying how it would make my stepbrother so happy. So I thought that the wise thing to do was to sell it to someone and save that cash and add it to the money I've been saving for my brother's future college tuition. This has just happened last night, and I can still feel the flames burning in my body. So when my BF and I got together, he and his mom shared a basic Costco membership, and it helped us every now and then when it came to saving money. Now, the account was hers, and she is the primary, and fast forward a year later, my boyfriend and I updated, and I paid from the basic membership to executive membership. That gives you 2% to 5% back after a full year, and it is nice knowing with all the money I spend, we can get a little something back, especially since we have a baby now and go either once or twice a month. Now, I am saying I spent the money because I make the most in the household in regular pays. When I told my boyfriend to change the address soon because of his history with him and his mom with money, I was worried she was going to do it again with his check and take it the chance she got. My boyfriend told his mom what we did and informed her that we wanted to change the address to be our address, so we can get the check sent to us when it does. And she completely understood and agreed, since she had planned to cancel the account anyways. For me, I wanted to change the account and get a new account with me being the primary. But my boyfriend insisted we just renew his mom's account since she helped us the year prior with it. So on the very next weekend, we had all gone as a family to change the address and get pizza to enjoy at home. And it made sense to all of us, since she only gets 2 to 8 items at most, around $20 to $55, for her Costco run when I spend about $250 to $380 a run per month or even sometimes twice a month. especially when I paid for my boyfriend to get new tires on his car, and that was a big drop of money. Well, if you know Costco and the dates, they send out that check on the first week of February, and I asked my boyfriend if he had seen any mail come in for the check, and he said he hasn't, but he got a weird feeling and just randomly asked his mom if she had seen the check come to her house, and she said no. Well, last night we made an emergency Costco run for food for baby and diapers, and I remembered about the check and suggested we go to the customer service desk to ask when they'll send it out. Well, come to find out, the mom had changed the address back to her house and the check had been sent out the first week of February. My boyfriend has been texting and calling his mom, and she has been avoiding him, and now I am livid. I told my boyfriend that I want that money back. All of it. And he said she can't pay it back and is sure we won't see it anymore. She knows I work the most while my boyfriend is at home with the baby, while he looks for full-time work again, and always putting in overtime to afford the lifestyle that my little family has. So this is personal to me, and it makes me sick to my stomach. My boyfriend is trying to calm me down and trying to tell me that she won't pay it back, but I am fully prepared to ban her from coming over to the house. Am I the asshole? She stole from you, plain and simple. I'd see if you can contact Costco or the bank and let them know someone stole your check. It's also mail fraud. You can report her for that. Once you let her know you will be reporting her for a federal crime, she may pay you back. If she does not, you can suggest a small claims court. And if she was willing to do this to you, what else will she steal? Feel free to ban this thief from your home. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. She's literally stealing food from her baby grandchild's mouth. At least you know what type of person she is, so you can make sure your child has little or no contact with such a toxic individual. She doesn't even sound sorry. Your partner needs to realize that he's complicit as well. You wanted a new account, but he insisted. I'm sure he wants to see the best in his mom, but that time is past. He needs to focus on his new family, and if his mom wants to be part of that, she has a lot of trust to rebuild. That's for him to figure out with her. For now, just get a new account and consider the money lost. Everyone sucks here. You were a fool to upgrade his mother's membership instead of starting a new membership of your own. By the membership agreement, she was entitled to that check and to do things like changing the address because she's the primary. If you want to get the rewards from a card or account, you have to be the primary. And doing anything else is setting yourself up for exactly what happened. Your boyfriend sucks for pushing you to be in this position. If he wanted to help his mom, you should have made her a secondary to your account, not vice versa. She sucks because she said she'd give it to you and went back on her word. She morally took the money from you even if legally she was entitled to it. My F19, sister 32, Mary, and her husband 28, John, have twins, a boy and a girl, both 10 months old. My parents were ecstatic when they found out she was pregnant, as the twins were their first grandchildren, and my sister had been struggling with getting pregnant for a while. I was happy for my sister and John, but I couldn't help wondering how they were going to handle this financially. They're in quite a bit of debt, and both work long hours. My question was answered a few weeks ago when we had a big family dinner. Me, parents, Mary, John, brother Mike, 21, brother Josh, 25, and his wife, Sophie, 27. My sister announced she would be returning to work in 2 weeks, so they were going to need everyone to chip in and babysit and to help out financially. I'm not going to lie, I was shocked when I heard this because it sounded a bit ridiculous that they expected everyone to babysit their kids for free and to give them money for their debts. Mary went around the table asking everyone when they could watch the twins so she could draw up a roster and how much money they could spare. Everyone was contributing, and Sophie was even talking about trying to move her work shifts around so she could babysit. I'm a full-time college student, and I have a part-time job at a bakery, so I really have no time or cash to spare. I'm also not great with kids, especially babies. I literally have absolutely no idea how to take care of them. When Mary got around to me, she said she thought I could do the most hours since I was only in college, and I didn't have any serious commitments. Her whole attitude kind of annoyed me, and I told I wasn't going to be babysitting her kids or going to chip in money-wise, and that it was her decision to have kids, so it's her responsibility. The room went silent, and my sister started crying, and everyone started giving out to me for being selfish and my mom said that in our family we take care of each other. I left the dinner because everyone was so mad at me and demanding I apologized. I realized that maybe I was a little blunt with her and maybe I should have offered to babysit once or twice, but I don't think I'm completely in the wrong. My family is still pissed at me and my parents are demanding I not only apologize to Mary and John, but write them a check to help them out. I have like $70 in my bank account, so that's not gonna happen. I want to apologize for being rude, but I know they're still gonna expect help. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. What they are asking for is ridiculous. And then expecting you to do more because you're in college? It's just absurd. Edit. I forgot to add this earlier. I was in a rush. If the parents of these children really are in debt like OP said, then a baby should be the last thing in their mind. I think it is just unfair for a child to be brought up in an environment like that. If they can't look after the baby, then they shouldn't even be raising the baby. I think adoption should have been an option here. Not the asshole. Their behavior is entitled as hell. It still may be the best to apologize for being rude and explain that you don't have any time or money to spare. Maybe offer that in the future you might be able to babysit if your schedule opens up, and you let them know. But right now, it's a no. The beauty of that way is they think you've compromised, but then your schedule just somehow doesn't clear up. Yes, I have been voluntold to babysit for free before. How did you know? Not the asshole. Was there a better way you could have phrased it? For sure. But at the end of the day, she and her husband chose to have kids. You have no obligation to help care for them. I'm also bothered that you said you don't have any serious commitments. College is kind of a big one, no? Your sister should not have made an assumption that all of you would pitch in, and your family should not be making you feel like you're doing something wrong by refusing. And quite frankly, your parents are way out of line asking you to write her a check. That's ridiculous.